Good morning, Paul here. It is August 9th, 2014 in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm going to talk to you today about the fall or the winter garden. The fall and winter garden is really the easiest garden as far as labor is concerned because you don't have all the summer weeds and all the watering that needs to be done like you do in the dead of summer when it's hot. The plants just pretty much grow themselves and they don't need a lot of maintenance. So that's a really it's a really great time to garden. Everyone gets excited in the spring about the summer garden when really that's not the highlight of the year. The highlight of the year is right now in mid-August, September, when you can plant just a myriad of varieties of seeds and just have a tremendous harvest throughout the winter. We'll have food here from this garden all winter long, unless it's a really, really harsh winter, and even then we'll have some. So I'm going to go through some of the varieties that I planted here already, and I'll pull them out and read them. We've got the Chioggia beet, bok choy, Corvair spinach, Lacinato dinosaur kale, Swiss chard, beets, more beets, dark beets, Detroit beets, black seeded Simpson lettuce, leaf parsley, forest green, giant of Italy parsley, carrots that we saved the seeds from you'll see in the previous video, Siberian imperial kale, and this is what really goes through January and February, and the flavor of it is very different in the winter. In the summer it's rather bitter and not so great, but in the winter it's really, really sweet, and that's because it doesn't have to fight a lot of bugs, so it doesn't have to have all these allelopathic agents to keep the bugs off. So that's a real winner. And then Georgia collards, which will go all winter, Chianti carrots, salad bowl lettuce, arugula, and I'm planting quinoa, which is supposed to be like the lamb's quarters that we have growing wild here everywhere and that we're eating a lot of, and iceberg lettuce, and cherry bell radishes. We have company coming in October, and I want to have a lot of really good food for them. They're going to be staying with us for a couple of weeks, and so I want to have a lot of radishes and carrots and lettuce so we can really have a great fresh salad every night. But the radishes are for somebody special. And let's see. Okay, I'm going to go through the steps here. A lot of people don't know where to start with a garden, but I'll tell you what I did here is I took a string trimmer, which is like a weed eater, and I went through and I weed eated everything, and then I went through with a hoe and hoed out the roots of the weeds and and then I took a little leaf rake and raked it all up into buckets, these little white buckets back here, and dumped it all in the compost. And it wasn't very hard in this particular spot because I had the squash here, the summer squash. We did really well with that, but the leaves are very aggressive. They cover the whole ground and there's not any sunlight, so it wasn't really hard to get all the weeds out of here and get it down to what you see here.
Don't you think they also did really well because the chickens had been here before?
Yep, we had chickens here before, and I didn't like doing chickens, so I stopped. And so they ate a lot of the weeds too and a lot of the seeds.
What's happening in the chicken house now?
And I'm using the that's Melanie behind the camera, my lovely wife, and that used to be a chicken coop, and now I just keep my shovels and my rakes and my toys and tools in there. So I'm really happy about that. I didn't like the chickens. I like chickens, but I didn't want to do that anymore. And so the second step is to Well, the first step was to weed eat and hoe, and the second step was to rake the debris and throw it in the compost. And then I have a little a row tiller, and this is like a $300 or $400 machine, and you don't have to have one of these. But I went and just tilled a stripe just down, and this goes pretty quickly. I can do this. I did this garden in about 2 hours, so we're not talking about a lot of labor at the beginning. And but I only tilled where the plants are going to be, and this does a couple of things. It keeps the soil tight where you're not going to have plants, so that inhibits the weeds. The loosening of the soil will cause weeds to come in, and your plants to come in too. And then it'll protect the soil. If we get a big rain, I don't want all this loose soil washing off, so it keeps the soil intact. And then I took a shovel, and the narrow trenching shovel you see standing up here. I'll pass this to you, Melanie, and I'll demonstrate that. This tool right here is just an amazing tool. Let me have the microphone. This tool here is just an amazing tool. It's a narrow trenching shovel. You can buy it in a lot of places. You can find them online or at Lowe's. But what that enables you to do is to get down deep. And I can do it. I can run it in barefoot with no shoes on. And on 2 of these rows, or 3 of these rows back here, where I'm putting the carrots and the beets and the root vegetables, that kind of thing, you really want to go deeper than just the first few inches. It'd be nice to do that everywhere. It is a fair amount of work, but you just do 1 row at a time, and then you break it up, and I move and do something else. I'll seed for a while and then come back and dig. But it'll dig down 12 inches and dredge up all those minerals and all that soil that's never been used, because it's really only been grass here for maybe probably 100 years. And so I dug step 4 was to dig down the carrot rows. And then step 5 was to seed and to cover the seeds. And I'm going to demonstrate that. And I'm going to let Melanie hold the microphone and speak into it. And the way I do it, well, there are a lot of ways to do it. What I do is I take a bunch of seed and I put it in my hand, and then I put the bag in like that, and I've got a pile of seed there. And then
I'm doing a very good job with the camera because you keep moving around so much.
okay. And so what I do, I'll hold the microphone here with the bag. And so I have the seed right in here, and then I sort of spread out like this, a little yoga style here. And then I take the seeds and I just sprinkle them along like that, and then I just fluff the soil back like that with my hands. And basically all I'm doing, and then I move down and do the next step. So I'm doing 6 feet at a time, and I'm stretching out my hamstrings, and it goes really quick. I mean, I have these things planted in just no time at all. And then, and I usually overseed quite a bit because I get these seeds, and I collect a lot of my own seeds now, so it's not hard to get a fair amount of seed. And then the last step is to periodically mulch and weed. Now, if I wanted to, I could come in with wood chips and cover these plants and side dress them with wood chips, and that would enable me to not have to weed and water as much. But you can tend to get a lot of water in the fall garden, so I'm probably not going to do that. Just leave it like it is, and I'll have a lot of ground cover come up anyways, and I'll just come in here with a hoe and try to keep it off my plants. But by the time I'm harvesting, this whole area will be green with grass and things like that, because I won't keep up with the weeding until really around October, where I'll be able to catch up. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to have just hundreds and thousands of pounds of food, and it's going to come up, and I can't possibly eat that much, nor can my family. But what we have at the house is we have a juicer, and I'll put a lot of this in the juicer. I have a Green Star juicer, and I can come in and get 10 pounds of kale or lettuce or whatever looks good that day and put it through the juicer and consume it. and that makes a huge difference in my health. It's just so much more nutritional than anything you're ever going to buy in a store, because it's so fresh and because it's really, really good, dense nutrition. And then we also have a Vitamix blender. I don't sell them, I'm not making a sales pitch, but a high-speed blender. And that's really good for if you want to keep the pulp. And that's, you know, good for digestion and so forth. And I don't use any chemicals here. You just don't need it. Everything will thrive just fine without any fertilizers, without any chemicals. Now, it might take you a while to build your soil up. The soil has been built up really well, but that just takes persistence and starting out small and working your way up. But we had a flood here in 2010. We had what's called a 500-year event. And the water here was up to my ankles in this particular spot. And we're having a lot of really erratic weather. And part of my focus here is to try to help the ecology and help with deforestation. And by having my own plants and my own gardens, we're not burning a lot of petroleum, and we're not using a lot of fields for grains and animals and things like that. It's a very, very ecological usage of land, because this whole area here could feed probably feed 5 or 10 people very easily, and it's just a small space. And if we were out here really cultivating it with a lot of labor, which I don't have the luxury of, then it would go even further. But this is better than anything you're going to get that's organic in the store. It's just fresher, it's closer, and you're just going to get a much better health benefit from this kind of food, as opposed to just buying from the store where they're spraying it with all sorts of city water with fluoride and chlorine, and who knows what other nasties are in there. And it's just coming such a long distance, and it's on the road. Well, all the car. By the time it gets there, it has to be picked really early, so it's not ripe, and that just gives you indigestion. And then another thing I just encourage you with is to start out small. If you have your own garden plot, just make a lot of compost. Save scraps from the kitchen, save your leaves from the trees. Your neighbors, your friends will give you any kind of compost material. Just start out small and work your way up. I've been here 14 years, and I've been doing this every year since my kids were small. And you can see it's coming along, and I've gotten a little better at it each year as I go. You just learn as you go. My first gardens died. When I was a kid, I used to plant gardens, and they'd die, and I'd get discouraged. But I just had to really stay with it and be persistent. Also, you'll notice here, I stopped taking my dietary supplements. They weren't really doing any good as I was ingesting them. So these are some dietary supplements here. And so I just put them on the soil, and the plants can use them. They're things, the things that plants can use. And so I'm just going through and emptying out my dietary supplements a little at a time. All sorts of vitamins and minerals that I just don't want to take anymore. And I got really into that, and I'm off. I'm done with that. That was stupid. It didn't help at all. The best way is the fresh fruits and the fresh vegetables. And then we also got over here behind the chicken house, under the storage, the fence posts that I'm storing there. We got a bunny living there, and he's really excited about the new garden because he's going to have lots of good food, and there's going to be plenty for him. And so he's really excited, and maybe you'll see him in another video. My dog likes to come in here too and sniff out the rabbit. She can't catch anything, so the rabbit's totally safe. And then, so we'll wind it up there. Thank you for watching us, and have a great winter and fall garden. Thank you. Bye-bye.